Hello, uh, this is Jeffrey. On this video, I would like to talk about land sweat equity and what you can potentially do with land. So, when I first became interested in land investing, I honestly had no idea of how I could even profit with land, and it took a lot of investigation and searching through the internet to get better ideas of how to develop the process of how you could potentially, in an essence, milk the fact that you have land available as a real estate investor in land. Now, the main purpose of my uh, business model in real estate investing in land focuses strictly on land. So I want to talk in regards to things that must be understood whenever you're dealing with land. So let's say that you finally manage to get your first deal of a piece of land. So what can you do with it? How can you improve the overall value of the land? So it ultimately comes down to the fact that you have to put sweat equity. And sweat equity just basically means that you have to sweat your butt off in a way to generate equity into the property. So you're forcing the value of the property to increase based on your effort, your sweat. So you can increase property value through sweat equity. Like, for example, if you think about rehabs of properties, after they have been rehabbed, that is sweat equity. So lenders will typically only let you borrow money if you have the intention to develop the land. So if you have a plan, planned out, that you can show to them so they can know that, there's something to fall back on. And hard money lenders practice the same principles as well. So, the conventional way of getting a mortgage, they will expect the fact that you need a plan and more, much more. So typically, hard lenders is usually the best way to go. But unfortunately, they don't have the lending ability for this specific strategy of real estate investing. So what this means is that initially at the beginning on your first property, you will have to do this for yourself. But when I say this, I don't mean it to scare you, but let me show you what I mean. So some things to do. Hire a surveyor. They will measure your land. They will tell you the GPS location with longitudinal and latitudinal locations. So it's really important to know that information just in case if there's any potential disputes with a potential neighboring property, if you're not able to get that. But usually that information will be determined in the due diligence process whenever you're in the process of attempting to purchase a property. So, but I just want to remind you. So in the situation that you already have the property and you want to sell the property, most people will try to sell it for cash on Craigslist, on eBay. There's so many different places, but it ultimately comes down to the fact that if you're ever having a really difficult time selling a piece of land, you have to offer easy financing, so owner's financing, where you would offer terms and they would make you monthly payments. So they would give you a down payment and then monthly payments. So the owner's financing process. And of course, that creates passive income for you. You could potentially lease the land as a property of its own to hunters. So that means that you could potentially reach out to companies that are in the business of hunting and offer your land as a potential location where hunters can go instead of you searching for the hunters individually. Now, recreational activities, paintballing, and of course, setting up a paintballing field, or I'm not sure what they call them, but I'm sure you have seen paintballs, people playing paintballing. Um, there's certain things that need to be set up in advance. Installing a well is also another very good idea if you ever have a piece of land and you want to increase the value of the property. You can subdivide your land. The main reason is because smaller pieces usually yield a larger profit rather than individual properties. So that means that little properties, if you sell them individually, you're likely to profit more. But of course, you're sacrificing the fact that you might have to wait a longer period of time. And if you subdivide your land, you have to contact the county. And I would teach much further into details on my video lessons in regards to that. So you can auction it online or locally. That's another option. Build a road inside your land. So if your land is just nothing but forest, you could potentially pay somebody to build a road into your land. So that creates the perception that it's a ranch. And when you create the perception that the piece of land that you have is a ranch, that increases the price of the property tremendously. Of course, you can use it, for personal use. If you want to keep the land for yourself, you can sit on it and just allow equity to grow for capital stability. So, for example, if you have, I don't know, let's say $20,000 and you buy a piece of land, of course, implementing the strategies in which I will be teaching on my video lessons. I don't mean like you're buying it cash. There's a process of how you're potentially buying the property for 10 to potentially, I don't know, let's say 40 to like 50 cents on the dollar. So what I'm saying is that 20,000, it would go into the property for capital stability instead of just sitting in your bank or a 401k, for example. Or the fact that depending upon the economy or the housing market economy of that specific area where the property is located is what will determine the equity that the property will grow per year. So, for example, if a piece of land was worth $20,000 and the equity percentage increase in that location was 10%, so it would be 10% of $20,000. That would be $200. No, I'm sorry, $2,000, not $200. $2,000. That it would increase in equity. I might be saying those numbers wrong, but just remember that. So you can trade land for mobile homes or mobile properties. You could use land to develop it into a mobile park. And of course, you have to contact the county people, most likely the zoning department, to determine how that can be done. You could trade land for a house, maybe. Trade smaller lots of land for bigger lots. And of course, price matching, or if you guys could think of any other ideas of how you can trade things online on Craigslist. So you can trade, I don't know, for a car maybe, or RVs, motorcycle parks. You can use your land to develop it as somewhere where people can go, mud riding on their trucks. You could use it to put a cabin, a tiny house maybe, paintballing like I had mentioned before. You could advertise it on Craigslist, social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything you can think of. You could put up bandit signs. You could tell, your friends, or just post on your social media, or any other way you could think of. You could rent it to farmers, and the farmers would use the property for agricultural purposes. So it becomes a win-win situation for yourself and the farmer, and that would create passive income for you. The fact that you're having the land used for farming. You can sublease using seller's finance, and as far as this particular one, it comes down to understanding owner's financing and creative real estate investing strategies available. And of course, putting a gate on your piece of land and building a dirt road in it creates the sensation that it's a ranch. And I have seen that properties will explode in value. So, for example, if you bought a piece of land for $15,000, and after you built a road and you put a gate, the property price could go up to like $40,000, just based on the perception and the fact that it seems like a ranch. So sweat equity does work. And as far as how you come to these individual points, like for example, setting up, I don't know, a paintballing park, or leasing the land, or recreational activities, or building a well, you're gonna have to do your research, of how you can do these things. But if you don't want to deal with, building recreational activities or dealing with hunters or whatever, you could just go to the owner's financing route and just try to build passive income by receiving a down payment for your property, and then using what I taught on the video called bank rate. It will allow you to receive passive income, and it makes it something where you can just not worry about it, and you will still be making monthly profit off of it. So it kind of gives you an overview of the possibilities of what can be done with land, and I'm sure there are many other possibilities. I just gave you some ideas that I think would be very beneficial, so you understand the potential of the business. So it's all about creativity, like I said. But if you don't want to deal with that, you can just go the owner's financing route, or you could just try to sell the property on Craigslist or eBay or whatever, and just cash out. Simple as that. Okay, so thank you so much. Again, this is Jeffrey, and thank you for visiting my website. I really appreciate it. Please consider becoming a member, and you can learn potentially further details as to how to do a lot of these things. Alrighty, thank you so much.